How far would you go when betrayal shatters everything? Early had a steady life. A woman he loved, a successful career, a future he believed in. Until one day, it all collapsed. We need some time apart. There are things I need to figure out. That was the beginning of the end. But he didn't know that behind those words lay something much worse. Secrets, lies, deception. One screenshot, just one, and the world he had built over 6 years crumbled to dust. He wouldn't beg. He wouldn't break. He wouldn't even seek revenge in anger. No, he would be precise, cold, methodical. Like a grandmaster in a final decisive game, he would dismantle their lives piece by piece. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but Early was about to serve it in a way they would never forget. Are you ready to witness how pain becomes the ultimate weapon? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Now, let's get started. The wind howled through the empty halls of the abandoned house, its mournful cries echoing through the silence. Early sat unmoving in the dim glow of his study, his fingers clenched around his phone with such force that his knuckles turned white. The message on the screen remained open, each word seared into his mind. We need some time apart, Early. There are things I need to figure out. For 6 years, Rebecca had been his anchor, his partner, the woman around whom he had built his world. Or so he had believed. Now, her words felt detached, clinical, like a verdict rather than the heartfelt confession of someone he had once trusted with his soul. He scrolled through their last exchange, dissecting every word, desperate to unearth the moment everything had shifted. But no amount of scrutiny could have prepared him for the truth. Rebecca wasn't lost. She wasn't searching for clarity. She had already found what she was looking for, in someone else. Gerald. The past Early thought had long been buried had clawed its way back, suffocating him in its grasp. Sleep became an unattainable luxury, his thoughts spiraling into an endless abyss. That single message had unraveled everything, leaving behind a storm of unrelenting chaos. Sitting in his car outside their once happy home, he gripped his phone tightly as his mother's hesitant words replayed in his mind. Check Rebecca's social media. There's something you need to see. At first, he dismissed it. Rebecca had never been the type to share her life online, and he had never questioned her loyalty. But when he finally searched, he found nothing. Her posts were hidden from him. His stomach clenched. A mistake, surely. A glitch, until his mother sent him the screenshots. There she was, basking in the golden glow of Puerto Vallarta, draped in the coral sundress he had gifted her last summer. The setting was unmistakable, the serene waves, the sunlit shore. But what shattered him was the man standing beside her, Gerald. The name alone sent bile rising in his throat. Gerald, the ghost of past betrayals. The mistake Rebecca had sworn was behind her. He had broken her once, begged for forgiveness, only to return when it suited him. Early had believed her when she said that chapter had ended. The caption beneath the photo was as cruel as it was revealing. Sometimes, you have to revisit the past to find your future. Future. The word burned like ice in his veins. He didn't call her. He didn't beg for an explanation. Instead, he sat in suffocating silence, staring at those images until the chaos inside him stilled, giving way to something far more dangerous: resolve. Rebecca had made a grave mistake if she thought she could simply walk away without consequences. A week later, she returned, gliding into their home as if nothing had changed. Her suitcase landed with a dull thud against the wooden floor, and she hummed lightly while unpacking souvenirs from her trip. "Hey, Early," she said, breezy and casual. "That break was exactly what I needed. I feel so much better now." Early didn't answer right away. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, but firm. "I know where you were, and who you were with." She froze. A small trinket slipped from her fingers, clattering to the floor. For a brief second, her mask slipped. Then, with practiced ease, she smoothed her features and exhaled. "Early, don't do this," she sighed. "I told you. I needed space. You're making it into something it's not." "You went on vacation with your ex," he stated, his tone devoid of emotion. "And you hid it from me. Don't insult me by pretending otherwise." Her posture stiffened, and her voice hardened. "It wasn't cheating. We were on a break. I didn't think I owed you an explanation." Early's gaze never wavered. "You don't." He stepped past her without another word. "I'm done." His words struck like a blade. Her head snapped up, disbelief flashing in her eyes. "Done? You're being dramatic, Early. It was just a trip." He didn't look back. He didn't answer. He simply walked away, leaving her standing in the heavy silence. 3 days later, the divorce papers landed at her doorstep. Rebecca's outrage was sharp and immediate, but Early remained unmoved. She had revealed who she truly was. When she tried to paint him as controlling and unreasonable, he simply watched as her manipulations unraveled. Then came the demands: alimony, compensation for the sacrifices she claimed to have made. That was when he knew it was time to strike where it would hurt the most. With a strategist's precision, he began digging. Rebecca had carefully curated an image of professionalism and ambition, but Early knew the truth beneath the surface. He unearthed discrepancies, financial inconsistencies, misused resources, expenses that painted a different picture than the one she flaunted. And then, there was Gerald, a man whose recklessness left a trail of chaos, debt, legal troubles, failed businesses. Early didn't just want to expose them. He wanted them to feel the weight of their choices, to watch as their world crumbled piece by piece. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. Early had spent years mastering the art of strategy, navigating ruthless corporate battles with ease. But this was personal, and for the first time in his life, he had nothing left to lose. Early sat at his desk, carefully poring over the financial statements he had spent weeks assembling. A cold satisfaction settled within him as the puzzle of Rebecca's deception took shape. The evidence was irrefutable. She had been siphoning their shared resources with precision, funneling money into luxury handbags, extravagant spa retreats, and lavish vacations, all while lamenting their supposed financial struggles. He scrutinized every transaction, cross-referencing receipts and timestamps, until a clear pattern of betrayal emerged. Turning his attention to her professional world, Early examined the cracks that threatened to shatter her carefully curated career. As a high-ranking marketing executive at an elite luxury brand, Rebecca's reputation was everything. But Early had uncovered a web of financial misconduct: business expenses disguising personal indulgences, undeclared client gifts, and suspicious discrepancies in budget reports. And then there was Gerald. Gerald, her so-called ally in ambition, was nothing more than a fraud. His entrepreneurial ventures were a parade of failed schemes, each ending in lawsuits, unpaid debts, and burned bridges. A quick dive into public records exposed a history littered with legal battles and abandoned enterprises. Early leaned back, a smirk playing at the corner of his lips. They had underestimated him. Every lie, every act of betrayal had only armed him with the means to bring them down. And now, it was time. Rebecca arrived at work expecting an ordinary day, unaware that the foundation of her life was crumbling beneath her. A meticulously crafted anonymous report, Early's masterpiece, landed in the hands of her company's compliance officers. With undeniable proof of her financial misdeeds, they wasted no time initiating an internal review. The shift in the office was immediate. Conversations hushed as she entered. Meetings proceeded without her input, and once friendly faces turned cold. By the end of the week, she was summoned to the boardroom, where her dismissal was swift and merciless. Losing her job was more than a professional setback. It was the complete unraveling of the identity she had meticulously constructed. Worse still, the industry that once celebrated her now shut its doors in unison, her reputation irreparably stained. But Early wasn't done. His next target was Gerald. With quiet precision, he supported a lawsuit filed by one of Gerald's many swindled clients, ensuring it gained traction. The case quickly captured public attention, igniting social media with exposés of Gerald's fraudulent past. Early collaborated with an investigative journalist to publish a damning report, laying bare Gerald's history of deception. The backlash was swift. Rebecca and Gerald, once the envy of their online admirers, found themselves at the center of a storm of ridicule and condemnation. The glamorous life Rebecca had paraded across social media became her undoing as admiration morphed into scorn. Comment sections flooded with mockery, while Gerald scrambled to salvage his crumbling reputation. But the damage was irreversible. In a desperate bid to protect himself, Gerald abandoned Rebecca, severing ties as her life collapsed. His credibility in business circles was beyond repair, his ventures exposed as empty illusions. From a distance, Early observed the fallout, no longer driven by anger, but by the poetic justice of it all. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about setting things right. As months passed, Early's life flourished. His career reached new heights, old friendships rekindled, and the weight of past betrayals lifted. He had even begun dating again. Elena was everything Rebecca was not: kind, sincere, and genuine. With her, he rediscovered what it meant to trust, to build something real and untainted by deception. Then, one evening, an unexpected email arrived. It was from Rebecca. The message was brief, tinged with desperation. "Early, I need to see you. Please, just once." Against his better judgment, he agreed. They met at a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. When she walked in, he barely recognized her. The poised, immaculate woman he had once known was gone, replaced by someone hollowed by defeat. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I lost everything," she admitted. "My job, my reputation, even Gerald. He vanished the moment things fell apart. I don't know what to do." Early listened impassively, letting her words hang in the air. When he finally responded, his voice was calm, resolute. "You made your choices, Rebecca. Now you have to live with them. I'm not here to fix what you broke." Tears welled in her eyes, but they did nothing to sway him. Without another word, he rose from his seat and walked away, feeling nothing but relief. For the first time in years, Rebecca was truly out of his life. Her downfall, along with Gerald's, faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale of greed and betrayal. Meanwhile, Early moved forward, embracing the life he was creating with Elena. Their love was built on trust, on honesty. Everything he had once believed was beyond his reach. One afternoon, as they sat together in the warmth of their sunlit home, he realized he had finally found peace. The past lingered only as a distant echo, no longer a weight on his shoulders. Occasionally, he heard whispers of what had become of them. Gerald had fled the country, dodging legal repercussions, leaving Rebecca to fend for herself. Early couldn't help but marvel at the irony. She had sacrificed everything for a man who discarded her the moment she was no longer useful. In the end, justice had run its course. And Early? He had no reason to look back. Early had never been one to tolerate arrogance, yet he couldn't ignore the irony of the moment. Life, in its peculiar way, always seemed to restore equilibrium. One evening, as he and Elena busied themselves in the kitchen preparing dinner, an unexpected letter arrived. The envelope bore no return address, but the familiar handwriting left no doubt as to its origin. Rebecca. He hesitated, torn between his lingering curiosity and the deep-seated urge to leave old wounds behind. Sensing his unease, Elena placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "You don't have to open it," she said softly. He gave a small nod, but after a brief pause, decided to read it anyway. The message was brief, yet its words carried more weight than he had expected. "Early, I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm working to change. I've started therapy and am trying to rebuild my life. I know an apology won't undo the past, but I needed to say it. I'm sorry." Early read the letter twice before carefully folding it and slipping it into a drawer. It wasn't closure, not exactly, but it was a step forward. Elena was everything Rebecca had never been: compassionate, unwaveringly honest, and genuinely supportive. She saw him, wounds and all, and loved him without reservation. Their relationship was built on trust and respect, a foundation he had once believed impossible to find again. Looking at how far he had come, he realized that the betrayal which once consumed him had faded into nothing more than a distant memory. Though he had long since moved on, Early had ensured Gerald faced the consequences of his actions. Months earlier, he had uncovered evidence of Gerald's latest overseas fraud scheme. With a few carefully placed emails to the right authorities, he set the wheels in motion. When news of Gerald's arrest spread, Early allowed himself a quiet, satisfied smile. It was no longer about vengeance. It was about justice. Early and Elena's life flourished. They settled into a home filled with warmth and laughter, a stark contrast to the darkness he had once known. His career thrived, driven by a renewed sense of purpose, while Elena's graphic design business blossomed. They often collaborated, their talents weaving together in creative and meaningful ways. Years later, an unexpected encounter brought Rebecca back into his life. It happened at a local community event, and she seemed changed, quieter, more reserved. Their exchange was brief, a polite nod and nothing more. As Early walked away, Elena's hand firmly in his, he felt something he never expected: peace. His past no longer had power over him. He had built something real, something unshakable. No past betrayal could touch that. Early's journey had never truly been about revenge, though it had played its part. At its core, it was a story of resilience, of rebuilding after devastation. In Elena, he had found the partner he had always deserved. Standing beside her in their backyard, watching the sky glow with the setting sun, he understood. He hadn't just survived. He had thrived. Rebecca's letter had been an unexpected twist in his story, but nothing more. He neither sought her redemption nor wished her harm. Knowing she was facing her own past was enough. Still, she remained a reminder of how far he had come and the road he had traveled to reach this place of contentment. One evening, as Elena worked on a design project in their home office, Early found himself lost in thought. "Do you think people can really change?" he asked, his voice contemplative. Elena looked up, considering his words. "I think they can, but only if they truly want to. Change isn't easy. It takes real effort, and most people aren't willing to put in the work." Her words resonated with him. He had changed, hadn't he? The anger that once fueled him had been replaced by quiet determination. He no longer sought retribution, only the fulfillment of a life well lived. He hoped Rebecca found peace, but her journey was no longer his concern. Time passed, deepening their bond. They traveled together, visiting places Early had once only dreamed of. On a crisp autumn night, during a secluded mountain retreat, he asked Elena to marry him. Tears glistened in her eyes as she said yes, and for the first time in years, Early felt unfiltered, undeniable joy. Their wedding was an intimate gathering, filled with the people who mattered most. As they exchanged vows, Early reflected on how distant his past struggles seemed. The betrayal that had once threatened to break him was now a mere shadow, insignificant in the light of his present happiness. Years later, another chance meeting brought Rebecca back into his orbit, this time at a professional networking event. She had left the high-stakes marketing world behind, now working for a small nonprofit. Their conversation was brief, but different. She didn't try to justify her past or ask for anything. Instead, she simply acknowledged her mistakes with quiet humility. "Thank you for listening," she said, before turning to leave. "I hope you're happy, Early. You deserve it." As he watched her walk away, he felt nothing but calm. The chapter had finally, truly closed. Gerald, however, had not been granted such peace. The evidence Early had provided led to a full-scale investigation exposing his crimes in damning detail. The headlines chronicled his downfall, culminating in his dramatic arrest. Justice had found Gerald at last. Early, on the other hand, had found something far greater, a future unshackled from the past, built on love, purpose, and the quiet certainty that he had, against all odds, won. Early first learned of Gerald's downfall from the evening news, but it barely registered in his mind. The wheels of justice had turned, and as far as he was concerned, there was no reason to dwell on the matter any further. His world with Elena was filled with love, direction, and a sense of fulfillment. Together, they navigated life's highs and lows, supporting one another through every challenge and creating a home that pulsed with warmth and laughter. When Early reflected on the past, it wasn't with resentment, but with gratitude for the lessons that had shaped him into the man he had become. Over time, he had come to recognize his own strength and had found a love worth holding on to. One golden evening in midsummer, he and Elena sat close together on their porch, watching as the setting sun streaked the sky with shades of amber and crimson. Their children's laughter rang through the air as they played in the yard, their joy carried on the soft breeze. Early turned to Elena, a quiet sense of contentment settling deep within him. "I never thought life could be this beautiful," he said softly. Elena leaned into him, her eyes brimming with affection. "That's because you made it this way, Early. You refused to let the past define you. You built this life with your own hands." Early pulled her closer, knowing she spoke the truth. His journey had been marked by hardship, but it had led him here, to a life filled with love, joy, and boundless possibility. The scars of betrayal still lingered, faint reminders of the road he had traveled, but they no longer brought him pain. They were simply a testament to his resilience, a story of endurance, redemption, and the unwavering will to move forward. And for Early, that was more than enough. This story has come to an end. Life often hits us with unexpected betrayals, lies, and disappointments. But true strength lies in how we respond. Early's story isn't about revenge, it's about choice. He could have drowned in resentment, but instead, he chose to move forward. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it's simply freeing yourself from the weight of the past. True victory isn't about destroying others. It's about rebuilding your own life, where pain no longer holds power over you. In the end, the best response to betrayal isn't revenge, it's happiness, built on your own terms. What's your opinion? Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from, and I'll say goodbye to you until the next video. Goodbye.